Hey everybody, Brandy here. I'm doing my comments for my Stampin' Studio today. Today I'm going to be putting a card together that I wanted you all to kind of join with me on this journey. I have a very dear friend who recently was, well, let me back up. She's been diagnosed with MS for several years now and has been dealing with all of that entails having MS. And a couple of months ago, she started seeing some really strange symptoms that she thought was related to her MS. And turns out, no, she had a brain tumor and has since found out that she has melanoma cancer. She had melanoma skin cancer several years ago. They did surgery to remove it. And of course, those little pesky cells are very tricky and sneaky. And they eventually migrated to her brain. She's been very brave through this whole thing, and I've had this card in my head for the last couple of weeks, and I haven't had time to really sit down and kind of design it and figure it out. I saw another Stampin' Up! Demonstrator who had posted kind of the card layout that I wanted. I'm looking to use the Ribbon of Courage stamp set, which is available in our current catalog. I bought this actually last year in last year's catalog. I think it was in the catalog, or maybe it was in the Occasions catalog. And I had all these ideas on how to use it, but I just hadn't had the opportunity or the, I don't want to say need, but it just hasn't come up. And so now with my dear friend, I decided I wanted to make a special card for her, and I thought maybe you all would enjoy kind of my process. I'm not going to kind of go over how I designed it, but I am going to go over how some tips and tricks on how I'm going to put it together. And so hopefully that will inspire you in your card journey. And if you have a loved one who is suffering from some type of cancer, this stamp set is just, I mean, there's so many things you can do with it. And I think that making that hand crafted card for a special friend who's suffering with the effects of cancer, it can mean a lot. And her wife is actually a Stampin' buddy of mine, so I know that her wife is going to enjoy it as well. So, all right, well, let's get started. I'm going to kind of show you the different pieces that I have put together, and then I'm going to use different tools such as my Stamparatus. I'm going to do some embossing and just regular stamping. So, all right, let's get started. Okay, as mentioned, the stamp set that I'm using today is going to be Ribbon of Courage. Excuse me. And I haven't made the card yet. I've sort of designed it and cut out the pieces, so in this video I may mess up and have to recut paper, and if that's the case, then I'll just stop the video and continue. Excuse me. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is I want to create a little background stamp with the hearts, and I'm going to try using the Stamparatus to kind of create this repeating pattern. And what I have done here is I've taken the grid paper and I have cut it exactly so it fits nicely in the Stamparatus. And I'm doing this because I want to do a stamped off the edge look. And if I were to do that directly on this plastic, then I will, increase the likelihood of getting ink that smears onto the paper. And so I'm using my grid paper to make sure that that doesn't smear back on the page, or at least that's the intention. All right, and let's see here. Sorry about that. I completely forgot that I need to get some stuff out. Okay, so in order to do that, I need to put a little mini glue dot on my cardstock here. And then I'm just going to line it up with my graph paper so it's straight down. Then I'm going to put my, oops, wants to move, so I probably need to put, oops, probably need to put more than one glue dot on it, so let's do that. So then it doesn't have a focal point to pivot around. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's do that again. And I'm doing this straight down the grid because when I go to move my plate, then it's basically going to be following that grid as well. So I'm gonna place those guys there as close as possible, and then I'm gonna pick it up. All right, I'm gonna use my case for my stamp set to go underneath my plate here, so it's got kind of a surface for it to lay on. All right, and so for the background, I'm going to use smoky slate. And let's see how this comes out. Yep. All right, go down one. And see, that is going to go over. All right, so that didn't work. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to pause the video. See, you do get to see some of my design mistakes here. So I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to cut another piece of paper out, and then we're going to try something else. Okay, I'm back. All right, so this time, instead of trying to do the two stamps at the same time, I'm just going to do the one. And then I'm going to do the repeating pattern down that way. So let's see if this will work a little bit better. All right, then I move it down one. So far, so good. All right, that looks great. All right, so now I need to make a decision as to whether or not I want to go ahead and place that guy where I want it. And let me clean it off real quick. Okay, so if I want the little guy, let's say I want him here. Him there. This one off. All right, so that one's going to be my second stamp. I'm not sure how far up I can go, so I'm going to start with the second hinge right there, and then I'm going to move it up one, and so it will cross over the paper just a tad, and that's kind of what I wanted. And you got to be real careful, real light with using these bigger stamp pads with Stamparatus, especially with smaller stamps, because you don't want to put ink along the edge and then get that kind of halo effect. And also the amount of pressure that you put here on the plate itself can influence or can affect how much ink goes down on the paper. So I try to be just kind of light, and always know that with a Stamparatus, see there's a little bit too much ink there, you can always re-ink and reapply if for some reason you didn't get enough ink down, or you missed a spot or something like that. Oopsie, like that right there, I didn't get enough, so I'm just going to re-ink. Just put a little tiny more pressure. Still not getting enough. Put a little bit more pressure. It's a little bit better. Just going to ink it up just a little bit more. Yep, that looks good. All right, move down one. Yep. And so I noticed that, this one came out a little bit darker, so I think I want to go back and re-ink these guys just to make it a little bit darker as well. And the nice thing is that since I did it on the hinge on the Stamparatus, I can position it right back exactly where I had it. So there's no trying to line it up because it's already lined up with the hinge. Okay, all right, so now I want to do this guy right here. Take him off. And I want him right there. Okay. Oh. Now see what happened? My stamp was not clean when I was trying to position it. So basically what I've done is ruined this. Alright, so I'm going to pause, cut some more, and then redo that. And hopefully this time I will learn my lesson and make sure that it's cleaned before I put it back down on the paper. Okay. So one of the mistakes I made in the last clip was that I didn't make sure that the stamp that I was repositioning, since I used it over here, wasn't completely clean. So I just used my Stampin' Scrub to get it off. But the other tip that I was just thinking of is to make sure that it's clean by just, you know, pressing down on the paper to get any excess ink off. Okay, and that looks pretty good. All right, so now I'm going to place it again about where I want it. And I think I want it right there. I'm going to lift it up. Okay, and then I can kind of press it down over here just to make sure it stays. All right, here we go. Okay, now the only other thing I would probably do with this pattern is I would probably try to get another heart bottom right there, but I don't want to do that right now because, again, this is not clean. So I'm going to go ahead and try to clean it off. Use my Stampin' Scrub. For those of you who don't know how this works, usually have your stamp on a block when you do this. But one side, and I actually have it turned upside down. One side is the side that you spray on. And that is the side that's got the little water drops right there. The other side has a little sun image there, and that's how you know which side you need to start with. That's the wet side, and this is the dry side. Alright, so that's pretty clean, but just to make sure, I'm just going to stamp it on just the extra paper here, just to make sure that I've got it all off. Okay, so now I want to do, let's see here. Actually, I can use this top one. I want to do this. I'm going to start over here. I'm going to set my stamp down right there. And then I'm going to come from up here. And then I'm going to ink it up. Go. I'm going to move it over. Let's see if that will work. Well, no. So it's not exactly even. So I'm going to clean that off again. You know, sometimes you just have to play with your tools and see what's going to, you know, work. And that's definitely what is, you know, playing through my mind right now. Like, how do I make this perfect? And of course, you know, really doesn't, you really shouldn't try to reach perfection when making cards. You should make it beautiful. And I think this is beautiful. So I want that right there. I'll just go ahead and use this side over here. Stick it on, ink it up. There we go. There, perfect. All right, so that looks good. I'm just gonna pull that off. I've got it on mini glue dots, so I don't put the whole thing down with snail, because then I run the risk of tearing the paper. So I'm gonna set this aside. All right, and go ahead and clean this guy off again. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is create a repeating pattern on my strips of paper here. And I want to do it down the way. So I'm going to set the paper along that edge. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 glue dots. Alright, I'm going to line it up with the grid paper so it's nice and straight, or as straight as I can get it. And this little flower guy, that's the one I want to use. And I'm just going to set him in the middle there. Alright, do the same thing. Ink up my flower. Alright, I'm doing 2 of these, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to leave my stamp where it is. I'm going to lift this guy up, set him to the side, put some glue dots on this guy. Okay, and then I'm going to set it right where I had it with the other strip. And if you can't remember where you put it, you can always kind of mark it. Alright, so that goes there. And if you see that you've got a little bit too much ink on it, you know, just go ahead and take your finger, kind of wipe it off. Gently tap it. If you didn't get enough, you know, tap a little bit more. I just love this hinge because it allows for that, you know, repeating pattern, and it's the same on each strip that I'm using, so kind of gives it that uniformity of look. Okay, so I'm done with this one. Oh, actually, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to clean my stamp off. I love my Stampin' Scrub. It makes it a whole lot easier to clean. I used to use baby wipes, and I still do occasionally, but sometimes baby wipes can leave fibers on your stamp, and then that can cause issues with stamping. You get stray marks. So you just have to be careful with what you clean your stamps with. Alright, so I want this to be an off the paper, off the edge stamp right there. Oops. Okay. And I'm going to repeat this process. So I'm going to fast forward here. That way you don't have to sit through the video while I do this. Okay, so the next thing I want to do with my card is I've got the inside here, and it's going to be placed right about here. And I want to make sure that I'm stamping in this space right here. So what I decided I was going to do is I'm going to use my Post-it notes, and I'm going to fold this back over and kind of just line it up. Oops. Let's see here. Maybe this idea will work. I'm going to put my Post-it there. Okay, and once I've got one, then it'll be easy to do the next. And this way I know that I'm posting inside the little window, or I'm stamping inside the window that I want to stamp in. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want to make sure that you're, you know, you're kind of lining it up as close as possible. Oops, and I moved my card. Oops, that needs to go in this direction. Hold on a second. Let me center this again. Yep. Yep, that's about right. Okay, and so once I've done that, kind of line that up, then I don't need that anymore. And I can go ahead and finish putting little notes here. Okay, and so what I want is to stamp this guy right here, and I'm going to kind of put him over as far as possible. All right, so let's go ahead and put a glue dot on the back of this guy. There's lots of different ways you can do this, but this is the way I thought would be best for me. Alright, this doesn't have to line up exactly on the grid because I'm not doing a repeating pattern. I'm just putting this guy on this side of the paper, and it'll become clear as I put the card together why I've chosen this. Okay, now my color theme I wanted to talk a little bit about is orange. Orange is the color that represents MS, and gray is the color that represents brain cancer. Now I did some research, and I'll post in the blog below where you can find links to other colors that represents other types of cancer. But melanoma's color is black, and I didn't really want to put a lot of black in the card, one because I think it's kind of depressing, and two, it looked more Halloweenish when I combined the orange with the black. So I went with the orange, whisper white, and smoky gray. And so because of that, I'm going to stamp my sentiment in the pumpkin pie. That's the orange that I decided to use. Oopsie. Okay, doesn't look like I got it all, so I'm going to re-ink it. That looks better. Okay, now let's see what we're going to do. I think I'm done with the Stamparatus. I'm going to set him aside. And I'll pull up my chair so I can get a little bit more comfortable. Okay, so I can just take my Post-it notes off here. And the next thing I wanted to do was I want to post I keep saying Post-it because of these Post-its. I want to stamp this guy right here, and I'm going to post it in smoky gray. So I don't need a Stamparatus to do this. I'm just going to mount him on a block. Make sure you're seeing all that. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up my stamp with the smoky gray. Okay. All right, and I'm going to put this guy right here. All right, looks good. And then I want to use the heart. Let me get a smaller block. And let me stamp him on a piece of scrap paper. Make sure I've gotten all those halos off. Okay. All right, so I'm going to lightly tap this guy. The smoky gray. That looks good. And I'm just going to kind of embellish a little bit. That looks great. See if you're seeing that. Perfect. I like that. So that's going to be the inside. Now, I want to, let's see. This is going to be another inside sentiment. And I'm going to use this one where it says sending love and hugs to you. Let me put that on a block. Okay, I'm going to use the pumpkin pie. Ooh, too much, Brandy. Too much. Got a little heavy-handed trying to ink that up. Alright, so just in case I wiped any off the actual word, stamp that up. Alright, and then we're just going to center him. I don't know why I call stamps hymns, but stamp this guy right there. That looks great. Again, I'm going to use my little hearts. Let me close this before I make a mess. Now I will have to give credit to this blogger called, let's see, Crafting Buddy. I don't know what her name is, but I found basically the same card in different colors on her website, and I just thought it was really cute, so I wanted to recreate. Perfect. All right. I think I have all of the stamping done. Now let's put the card together. Okay, so on the front, I'm going to put, oh, I don't have all the stamping done. Hold on, hold that thought. Let me pause for a second. Okay, I'm back. All right, so what I want to do is I want to stamp the word courage. And I'm decided that I'm going to do it on a larger piece of scrap paper, and then I'm just going to cut it down to the size that I want. I find that that's a little bit easier. So I'm going to use my Versamark, and I'm going to kind of stamp up my stamp with the Versamark, trying to be careful that I don't get excess on the edge, or if I do, that I'm really careful about how much pressure I put down on the stamp. I'm going to use my embossing buddy to clean off my paper. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and get that stamped. looks good. All right, so I'll post a link on another video where I show you how I store my embossing powders. And perhaps it'll work for you. Works for me. But I just keep my embossing powder in these containers, and I use my little spoon here. And then I pour the embossing powder over the coffee filter and give it a nice little tap just to kind of clean off any excess. I also use a paintbrush to wipe off any stubborn pieces of embossing powder. And you want to be real careful as you get closer to the stamped image that you don't actually run the brush in your stamp. So I'm going to set that down. I'm going to go ahead and put the excess back in its container. Put my spoon back. Close that up so I don't make a mess. And then I'm going to use my my heating tool to set it. Make sure you close your Versamark ink, because if you get any heat on that, then you ruin all of that Versamark ink. And then I'm just going to hold this here and watch for the ink to kind of bubble up. Looks good. Another tip I recently learned, actually from one of my customers, is that when you use your heat tool, your paper can kind of warp. If you turn it over and heat the other side, kind of flattens it out. Alright, so now I want to cut this down to size. Get my stamping trimmer out here. Okay. All right, I'm going to use my my plastic ruler here as kind of a guide. All right, that looks good there. And so I want to make sure that I get that even, and I don't cut off that G. All right, I think that's about right. Perfect. All right, so that's done. All right, now I'm going to use my banner punch to cut notches out, and I don't know how long I want that, so I'm going to turn it over and get it kind of centered, kind of eyeballed. That looks good. Okay, I'm just going to do it over on this side. There you go. Now that's not centered. The tags are not centered, so I'm going to try to recut that a little bit. Alright, just stick it in there. Let me see how much space. So this is all kind of eyeballing it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, let's get that centered in there. I think that'll look good. Let's see. Well, that looks better. I could probably trim this off a little bit. Let's see if that'll work. Just a little bit though, not much. Now, if I had measured and figured this out beforehand, it would be a lot easier, but just sort of doing it on the fly. Ta-da! That looks much better. Okay. Okay, so let's start to put the card together. First thing I want to do is I want to put the inside in. I don't need the Post-it notes anymore. I want to put that in and center that in. So I'm going to use my snail, which I don't have ready, of course. Hold on. Okay, I just seem to be all over the place today. Sorry about that, my disorganization, but that's usually how it goes when I'm making cards. Oh, I just sort of pull stuff out as I think to use them. All right, so I'm going to use my snail here. And then, as I mentioned before, the blog post down below is going to have the dimensions of all this and where I scored and stuff, so it'll be easy for you to recreate this card if you like. All right, so I'm going to kind of line this up. I want to get this centered. That looks good. And as I fold it, see, it's still showing. Awesome. All right, so I've got some card stock here that I've already cut out and measured that are going to be used as mats to the repeating patterns that I created. And let's see, this one goes with this one, I believe. Yes. Okay. Use my snail for this. Looks like it's still recording. All right, so that's going to go there. This guy is going to go here. Okay. These guys are going to go on either side here. And I want a little bit of the orange to show right there. So I'm going to go ahead and put some snail on this. Alright, want to line this up with the edge and get it as straight as possible. Alright, now if I measured off, like I did a little bit here, it's okay. I'm just going to use my snips to kind of trim that up. Yep. Okay, and do the same with the other side. Okay. Sometimes it's hard to get the exact measurement. You do have to do a little trimming. That's okay. All right, so we've got that. And how this card is going to open is that this guy is going to be on the inside and this guy is going to be on the outside. And so you're going to fold it open like that, fold it open like that. So I need to put, and I purposely made this card bigger than this card so it would hide. And so what I want to do is I want to get this guy positioned right first. Alright, and for this I want to use tear and tape. And of course, I don't have any handy, so give me 1 second. Okay, back with the tear and tape. So I want to use tear and tape for a couple reasons. One is that I want to make sure that this card stays down because it's going to have a lot of opening, flapping. And I'm afraid if I use snail that it may not hold up. So I want to put snail on the bottom half of this card. Not snail, excuse me, tear and tape. So I'm going to put some tape right here. And I can do some right about there. Let me just measure that again. Right about here. Okay, got a little extra there, so let me trim that off. Okay, so then I'm just gonna pull up the tape. This is probably the trickiest part of this card, is getting the tape off. All right, so I'm going to position him about right there. Okay, and this guy's going to go right on top. Yep, just right there, so you can't see it. And I did forget my ribbon. I need to put my ribbon down. I'm going to see if I've got anything in here that I can kind of snag that up a little bit. And I've got black baker's twine, but again, I don't want it to look too Halloween-y. So, let me see, I've got some cord here. Let's try that. This is not a Stampin' Up! Product, but I will link it. So, yeah, I think that's cool. Alright, so how am I going to adhere this? I probably want to use some glue dots. We'll try that. Alright, so let's kind of fold this in half. And let's put a glue dot at the top. And then I'm going to adhere him down like that. And then I probably just want to put a couple extra glue dots around. So let's see here. Again, this is just kind of off the fly here. Here, let's put this off. Kind of looking cool. Yeah, okay, so I want this to go down below. Sometimes when I'm trying something out new, I can't talk and do it at the same time, so you'll just have to forgive my silence. Okay, I want that guy right in that spot, so I gotta, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll put the glue top on top because that's exactly where I want to go, and then I'll press that guy down. Yeah, that works. Okay, and then one more on the leg of the ribbon, not too far down so I can trim where I want it. Come on. Oops, don't stick, don't stick. Okay, right there. Okay, so I want to trim this off here and here. Ta-da! Yeah, that's cool. All right, so let's see, where's my little congratulations? I have a mess here. Where'd I go? Where'd it go? Seriously? All right, I gotta put you on hold while I find the congratulations. Okay, I'm back. I couldn't find it, so I had to make another one. All right, so I'm gonna use my dimensional dots, and I'm going to place this guy right there. So what I need to do is place a dot on either side of that cord, and it does stick up quite a bit. So probably should have gone with something a little bit flatter, but we're gonna make this work. All right, so tape off. Center Courage on there. And I probably need to double up those dots. Make it a little bit more even. I think that will look a lot better. Alright, and thank goodness I'm going to be giving, well, I think maybe I am going to mail it. I don't know, I may have to put a little extra postage on this. Alright, so I'm going to center it there. Stick, stick, there we go. Yes, alright. Then that guy is going right there. Now, because this is so heavy, I don't think the snail is going to do the trick. So I'm going to have to put some tear and tape on here, and I'm just going to put small little sections. I don't know why I do that. I never really always get it too long. Turn that off. It looks like my paper snips need to be cleaned because I have too much adhesive on them, which I always use Gooby Gone. It works rather well in cleaning. Look, I did it again. In cleaning snips, paper snips. Alright, and just one more little piece. And of course, I got it too long. Alright, that should work. Okay, now the tricky part, getting the tape off. There we go. Alright, and I'm going to center that here. Looks good. Give it a nice little press. Make sure it sticks down. Okay. Now we've got to figure out where it's going to go here. And I think I want it right there. So I need to put tear and tape on that side. I think that's good. All right, let me turn off that extra. And I'll put this guy down where I want it. I'm going to line it up on the bottom first. And then place it there. Okay, so there you have it. My little fancy fold. And then I've got places to write down here, right over here. And then when she opens the card, it will look like that. Yay! I think it came out cool. All right. Let me turn over the camera. So I hope you enjoyed this long tutorial, and I'm sorry that I didn't have all of my supplies ready and handy. But I hope that I was able to show to you that you don't have to have your cards perfect the first time. Sometimes it takes a little practice and a little experimentation on how to use your tools the best to your advantage anyway. And so I really love this card. I'm so glad that I took my time with it. I hope that it gives my friend a little encouragement and know that she is fighting the good fight and that all of her friends are surrounding her with love and hugs. All right. Well, if you thought this video was helpful, please do me a favor and hit the like button. Also do subscribe. There's a little bell on one side or the other of the screen depending on where you're viewing this. And if you hit that bell, it'll also notify you every time I upload a new video. And please do comment down below with any ideas of another card that you would like me to show you. All right. I hope this has been helpful. Don't forget to check out the blog post down below where you can get all of the dimensions for this special card, and a place of all the links of where I purchased the items to make this card. All right, life happens. I comment. Stamp me some love. Bye-bye.